Wagering markets have just experienced some of the strongest years in their history. These platforms allow people to bet, or if we want to dress it up, trade, on virtually anything imaginable. From political elections to projections about starving children in active war zones, all the way to whether Jake Paul gets absolutely destroyed in the ring, and to the surprise of absolutely no one, the rapid expansion of these markets is already creating some, let's say, troubling effects on society. But those concerns are easy to overlook when the revenue numbers are this massive. Just two of the largest prediction markets operating today are on pace to process more than $100 billion in trading volume this year alone. And naturally, other companies have taken notice. The normalization of betting on everything has spread so widely that it's beginning to compete with the lightly disguised gambling already happening on platforms like Robinhood and Coinbase. So instead of resisting it, they're launching prediction markets of their own. In the past year alone, at least a dozen major organizations, including CME Group, Sports Illustrated, and Trump Media's Truth Social, have either launched or partnered on their own prediction markets. The result is simple. No matter which platform you're using, you can now easily wager your rent money on whether aliens will be officially confirmed before GTA 6 finally comes out. Like many modern financial innovations, it might almost be amusing if it weren't likely to carry serious consequences for everyday people. But by now, you've probably already seen this trend unfolding. What most people haven't fully recognized, though, is which businesses are positioned to profit the most from it. And here's the twist. It's not necessarily the platforms hosting the markets. It's not the individuals who believe they'll beat the system, only to lose everything and end up driving Uber. Ironically, some claim we should use prediction markets to understand what's really happening in the world. People are betting on esports outcomes, on virtual items in video games, on the markets for those items, on financial prices, on speculative questions about the future. And then you hear the stories. Someone now delivering Uber Eats every day, sleeping in their car, warning others not to make the same mistake. Please don't gamble, they say. Trust me. Before going further, it's worth clarifying an important technical distinction between modern prediction markets and traditional bookmakers. A conventional sportsbook operator like DraftKings or FanDuel essentially takes the opposite side of its customers' bets. If you place money on Ohio State to beat Michigan, the company itself must pay you out if Ohio State wins. Typically, they offer odds slightly worse than the true expected value. That's where their profit comes from. In a genuine 50-50 matchup, instead of paying $2 for every $1 wagered, they might pay $1.95. The term bookmaker comes from their goal of constructing a balanced book of bets on both sides of an event. That way, regardless of the outcome, the losing bets fund the winning bets, and the company retains a consistent margin. In reality, perfectly balancing that book is difficult. If too many bettors pile onto one team, the bookmaker becomes exposed to a potential loss if that team wins. To manage this risk, they adjust the odds, making the overbet side less attractive and offering more favorable odds to encourage bets on the opposite outcome. In the past, this balancing act was handled manually by traders sitting at desks that look no different from those of hedge fund stock traders. Today, however, sophisticated algorithms handle thousands of games and markets simultaneously. Prediction markets like Polymarket, Kalshi, and the many imitators attempting to capitalize on the trend operate a bit differently. They don't directly take the other side of the bet. Instead, they provide a marketplace where individuals trade against each other based on differing opinions. You might log in and offer 20-to-1 odds that Atrioc reacts to this video. The platform itself doesn't accept that wager. It simply lists it until another user agrees to take the opposite position. The specific mechanics vary by platform, but most collect a small fee, typically around 1%, from the winning payout. This marketplace model, facilitating bets rather than underwriting them, gives these platforms certain advantages. One major benefit is regulatory positioning. Since they technically enable contracts between independent parties rather than operating as the counterparty themselves, they often fall under the jurisdiction of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, if they're regulated at all. On paper, these wagers are treated as financial derivatives. That classification means the regulatory oversight, and even the age restrictions, are often far lighter than they would be if the platforms were supervised by a state gaming authority. CoffeeZilla has put out an excellent series exposing the legal gymnastics that allow these companies to sidestep rules that clearly seem designed to apply to them. I'll leave a link below if you haven't seen it. But at this point, after the endless wave of gambling and gambling-adjacent ads fired directly into your prefrontal cortex, none of this probably shocks you anymore. What's less obvious, however, is what this business model truly enables. By structuring themselves as neutral marketplaces, these bet-on-everything platforms have effectively opened the back door to hedge funds, giving sophisticated players the chance to turn the entire ecosystem into a carefully managed hunting ground. And it almost goes without saying, you are the prey. So it's time to understand how this system really works. And more importantly, how the serious money behind these platforms is actually being made. This video is sponsored by Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management platform that integrates sales, CRM, accounting, inventory, manufacturing, and dozens of other tools into a single connected ecosystem. What really stands out is how seamlessly everything integrates. You choose the applications you need, and they synchronize immediately. The CRM includes predictive lead scoring, inventory and manufacturing modules provide real-time tracking, and the entire system keeps operations coordinated without becoming complicated or overwhelming. We've been using Odoo ourselves for both Compounded Daily and the MoneyWorks library, and it has significantly simplified our workflow. Instead of bouncing between multiple services, all of our subscriber management, content updates, and internal tasks are centralized in one dashboard, making day-to-day operations far more efficient. It's also intuitive to use, creating invoices, scheduling production, monitoring inventory, launching new projects, customizing the interface. Everything feels organized and straightforward. If you'd like to see how Odoo can streamline your own business, check the link in the description to start a 15-day free trial, or keep any single app free forever with no credit card required. Beyond regulatory positioning, another subtle advantage of the prediction market model is capital efficiency. Because these platforms don't directly take the other side of bets, they don't need to maintain enormous cash reserves. Traditional casinos and bookmakers, even in the most business-friendly jurisdictions, are legally required to hold sufficient liquidity to cover all outstanding wagers and withdrawals at any time. For large operators, that reserve requirement can run into the billions, a massive barrier to entry for any startup hoping to disrupt gambling. Sorry, prediction markets. With prediction markets, users are simply betting against one another. In theory, that means the platform itself isn't responsible for funding payouts. This structure makes it dramatically easier for virtually any app on your phone to spin up its own miniature casino. But that convenience introduces a new challenge: liquidity. For people to trade predictions, they need counterparties. No one is going to deposit money onto a platform if there's no one available to trade against. Even the largest, most established platforms struggle to maintain deep liquidity across the thousands of markets they list every day. That's where market makers come in. In traditional financial markets, a market maker continuously offers to buy and sell a security at slightly different prices, earning a small profit from the spread between the two. In simple terms, they skim a tiny margin off each transaction. Although that might sound predatory, market makers are generally viewed as essential. Their presence ensures that whenever you want to buy or sell a stock, there's almost always someone ready to transact immediately. If you've ever seen someone flipping items all day in a virtual marketplace for a small markup, that's the basic idea. In real financial markets, however, the role is far more complex. Market makers don't just quote prices for common stocks. They also provide liquidity for highly sensitive derivatives like options and futures, whose values can shift rapidly and unpredictably. Today, firms such as Citadel Securities and Jane Street generate a substantial portion of their revenue from market making. And the explosion of what we might politely call undisciplined retail speculation has created one of their greatest opportunities ever. Highly leveraged instruments like 0 days to expiry options can produce enormous gains, but they also carry extreme risk. By making markets in these volatile derivatives, quantitative trading firms are able to systematically extract value from participants who are, in many cases, effectively gambling. The more impulsive and undisciplined the counterparty, the easier it becomes for sophisticated algorithms to structure trades where, effectively, they win if it's heads and they still win if it's tails. Prediction markets take the reckless tendencies already present in retail speculation and strip away even the thin illusion that this resembles investing in any meaningful sense. Unsurprisingly, large hedge funds have eagerly stepped in to supply liquidity to these platforms. Through polished advertising, companies like Kalshi and Polymarket would prefer you imagine that you're wagering against some average individual who simply holds a different view than you. In reality, and this is the best case scenario, you're often trading against highly sophisticated firms. And in less charitable cases, you may be trading against participants with access to materially better information. At the moment, these platforms are so focused on scaling as fast as possible that behind the scenes, they are offering direct financial incentives to firms willing to provide liquidity across as many markets as they can. Some facilitators like Crypto.com have gone even further by establishing internal market-making desks that trade directly against their own customers. And if that makes you pause and wonder whether they've effectively circled back to functioning as bookmakers, the official response is essentially, don't worry about it. Unfortunately, that's not reassuring, and the situation becomes even more concerning. About 5 years ago, there was significant controversy around a practice known as payment for order flow. In that system, a major trading firm would pay a brokerage like Robinhood for the right to execute customer trades before anyone else. In exchange for the fee, they receive first access to incoming order flow. While this exact mechanism doesn't transfer perfectly to prediction markets, the concept of preferential access absolutely does. These exchanges maintain back-end trading interfaces loaded with features unavailable to everyday users. Advanced market data feeds, ultra-low latency connections, bulk order management tools, drop copy functionality, IP whitelisting, and more. Officially, these capabilities are reserved for institutional partners, though technically anyone can request access. In traditional financial markets, exchanges like NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange have spent years attempting to limit the structural advantages large firms gain through tactics like high-frequency trading and dark pool activity. They've done this for a simple reason. If markets become too visibly unfair, ordinary investors will stop participating. Prediction markets, however, have moved in the opposite direction. Instead of minimizing structural asymmetries, they've created an environment that functions almost perfectly for sophisticated market makers to extract value from regular users. You might argue that none of this matters. After all, most people opening Kalshi or Polymarket probably understand, even if regulators don't openly say it, that this is gambling. And if it's gambling, nobody should reasonably expect consistent profits. That would be the rational assumption. The problem is that the mechanisms quietly siphoning money from these markets, beyond the visible platform fees, make the ecosystem far more complex and much harder to regulate. At the same time, they make it increasingly profitable for platforms to push these products onto as many users as possible. If this video accomplishes anything, I hope it sheds some light on how this industry is monetizing desperation under the banner of financial innovation. And if you're curious how extreme this dynamic can become when left unchecked, watch the next video, where we explore how Australia became the gambling capital of the world. To close, I want to sincerely thank all of you for supporting my team and me this year by watching our videos.